Today, I want to talk about what happened to Eve in Hazbin Hotel, particularly the theories relating to Lilith, Rosie, and the mysterious figure who hasn't actually appeared in the show yet, known as Rue, who VivziePop showed us on Twitter back when Hazbin Hotel was just a pilot. The fandom has a lot of theories about these characters and how they all may be related, so let's break it all down, starting with the very beginning, Eve herself. Now, in the Bible, Adam and Eve are the first humans created by the Old Testament God for the Garden of Eden, with Adam being made from the dust of the earth and Eve being made later from Adam's side. The only rule the two were given was not to eat from the fruit of forbidden knowledge, which the Bible describes Eve and then her husband doing after Eve in particular has a conversation with the serpent. Now, in real life, the Fruit of Forbidden Knowledge is a complex symbol, being used for general knowledge that humans corrupted for negative purposes, to an ancient ritual that, like the serpent claims in the Bible, is said to make you like gods. And if you want to learn more about that, you should really check out my hour-long video I made on Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel, which deals largely with the real-life history of this topic, link in the comments down below and at the pop-up at the end of this video. But for this video, the real question isn't what the Fruit of Forbidden Knowledge is, but more so where Eve is. Regardless of the actual power of the fruit, eating it has led to Adam being in heaven, as is one of the sons of Adam and Eve, Abel, but Eve isn't anywhere to be seen yet. To be honest, after Season 2 just brought in the Speaker of God without any real context to her in the hierarchy in Season 1, I wouldn't be surprised if Season 3 or onward just revealed that Eve has been in heaven this entire time, that she's seen as a loving mother of humanity there, and she's mostly just left alone after everything she's been through on Earth. It would make her a fun inversion of Lilith, who was banished to hell with Lucifer for giving her the fruit after all. But of course, it wouldn't be much of a theory video if that was the case. And what I really want to talk about is the possibility that Eve ended up going to hell, or even more strange, that she's now disguising herself as Lilith. Now, in the Bible, as we said, Eve is the first and only wife of Adam, but in the later Jewish tradition, Lilith was a character invented to take on the more negative aspects of Eve's character with her eating the forbidden fruit. While that was the act that led to sin in the world today, Adam and Eve are generally treated as well-meaning ancestor figures, with characters like the serpent and later Lilith taking the blame for the negative aspects of their story. Hazbin Hotel follows the Jewish tradition by having Lilith be a character meant to be Adam's first wife, but later rebelling by running away when they can't agree on which partner should be on top for their lovemaking. In the show, Lilith lived in hell and inspired the sinners until about 7 years ago when she left Lucifer and even her daughter Charlie. They think Lilith is just hanging around hell somewhere, but we as the audience know that Lilith is either in heaven or some sort of heavenly adjacent, with some fans saying that this location we see her in may actually be the Garden of Eden instead of heaven itself. Regardless of where it is, some fans actually believe that this isn't Lilith at all, but actually none other than Eve. The first reason, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be true, is a lot of people are claiming the real Lilith is known to have horns, something we see in portraits in the show for instance. With that in mind, some fans have been actively discussing the idea that this mysterious figure hiding her face in the show is Eve in disguise. This is something I bring up despite being obviously wrong to others because of how much I see it being posted, and if I don't address it, people will leave a lot of comments on the video asking why I didn't cover that theory. But the truth is that even in Season 1, we see Lilith without her horns in Charlie and Lucifer's flashback. So what's going on with the horns? Well, there is actually lore for this for the record, which is another reason I wanted to bring this up. As in early live stream interviews, VivziePop, or someone who worked with her, if I'm misremembering, explained that Lilith's horns actually change shape and are constantly shifting. The problem with that in animation is that it's something really hard to pull off, so whoever was discussing the problem specifically said that we probably wouldn't see the horns in the show. Or that if we did, it would probably just be once or something. With that in mind, this is not evidence at all that this figure isn't Lilith. But there is a second piece of evidence, however subtle it might be, that I think a lot of fans see as a more legitimate clue that Eve is pretending to be Lilith. You see, back when Season 1 began airing, the show put out trading cards with a lot of fan favorite characters, which included a mysterious rare Lilith card. This card didn't show Lilith's full face, something we'd already seen in the portraits within the show, and she seemed to be hinting at a huge secret with a finger in front of her mouth, signaling for us to keep quiet. This implies that something about what we are told about Lilith isn't exactly true, and some people think it points to Lilith being replaced by Eve because of this smile. A lot of fans say that this smile is very similar to the one smile we see of Eve in the show. But me personally, if you put the two images together side by side, I wouldn't really say that they're the same smile. And I think a lot of people would agree with me. But it does signal to me some big secret that Lilith does have beyond what we've seen in the show so far. Finally, a third piece of evidence is the Fruit of Knowledge imagery that we see surrounding Lilith while she's in Eden. This primarily comes from her phone, which shows the image of a tree of forbidden knowledge, something Lilith would take on as her own design as well. But in addition to that, we also see her eating an apple. While this can be a normal apple, and the original fruit of forbidden knowledge wasn't depicted as an apple in the Bible, a lot of Western media uses the apple as the fruit of forbidden knowledge because it's just simply a very well-known fruit. And it's also the fruit that we see Eve eating in the actual show. So it's entirely possible that here in the Garden of Eden, what Lilith is actually eating is the fruit of forbidden knowledge, and this might not make her actually Lilith, but none other than Eve maybe. Though the two are essentially equally connected to the fruit in my mind, and it doesn't really prove anything still. The big theory going around right now is with Eve presumably not being in heaven, that she ended up going to hell and living there for a long time, possibly because she ate that fruit of forbidden knowledge. After some time, however, when Lilith would begin her plans to try and take down heaven, Eve would be tagged in order to take her place when they wanted someone to come in and be a sort of political prisoner. You see, Lilith had been using her singing voice and singing career in order to inspire an uprising against heaven. And at some point about 7 years ago, this led to heaven allowing the annual extermination in order to keep the people of hell beneath them. Lilith, meanwhile, publicly just broke up with her husband and left her family, and was believed to be somewhere around hell, but turned out to actually be in heaven. Now at first, this seems like some sort of reward, but all we see of Lilith is her just sitting around enjoying paradise with no one around her. And I just can't believe that Lilith would go through everything she did just to end up being a lonely person in some sort of heavenly paradise without any friends or family. Instead, I believe Lilith is playing a long con, and she had to surrender herself to heaven in order to advance her plans. But of course, if she had more work to do with her plans in hell, she couldn't actually go there herself. And that is why some fans want to believe that this figure is actually just Eve, putting on a big hat and sunglasses and refusing to ever speak while on camera so that no one around her will recognize that her voice is clearly different. Now, in addition to the idea that Eve may be masquerading as Lilith as part of Lilith's bigger plan, a lot of people also have the theory that Eve is none other than Rosie. Rosie is an interesting character because the cannibals that she's supposed to be a part of all appear to be sinners with their red blood. But early livestream lore, which may not actually be canon for the record, indicated that Rosie didn't die on Earth the way a normal sinner did. It's because of this that I'd actually previously theorized in one of my bigger videos for this season that Rosie is none other than Lilith, something of an alternate identity that she takes on in hell in order to run some business without the oversight of Lucifer. However, the second big theory that I see floating around these days is that Rosie is none other than Eve and a completely separate character from Lilith here. The idea is that Eve, like Lilith, would have been forced to go to hell instead of dying on Earth, as like Lucifer and Lilith having blame for giving the fruit of forbidden knowledge to Eve, she was also the one that ate it, making it a fitting punishment for her. Like Lilith, this would make her someone who was a human, but who never died and actually became a sinner. And instead, Eve might have taken on the form that today is referred to as Rosie, and is using her initial eating of the fruit of forbidden knowledge in order to try and overthrow heaven for her own reasons. One of the big reasons for this is despite Rosie acting like she and the other cannibals are from a more recent time in Western history, when Rosie first appears to Alistair in the form of light through a radio, she talks about how she hasn't seen a soul like Alistair's in all of her time in hell, which she indicates to be rather long, and then she becomes an infinity symbol, as if she has been there since the very beginning. And since hell was created specifically by the eating of the fruit of forbidden knowledge, it makes sense that even if she wasn't banished there, she might have just been sucked into hell by the creation of it from her action. In the Bible, Eve is also the mother of Cain, who many people assume to be one of the first people who ended up in hell as the murderer of Abel. This is important because in the Jewish Kabbalah, Cain is considered the first of the cannibals known as Nephilim, with this story claiming that the serpent actually seduced and defiled Eve, impregnating her with a half-angel hybrid. What's important here is the connection Cain has to cannibalism, with Rosie of course being the leader of the cannibal colony. Now these are all fun, don't get me wrong, but I'm really leaning on the third big theory that I've seen floating around in the comments, which is that Eve did go to hell, but that she took on a new identity after eating the fruit of forbidden knowledge, and not just the identity of Rosie. Since eating the fruit of forbidden knowledge is what caused hell to spring into existence, it's possible that Eve might have been transformed into an important figure within hell. It's because of this that a lot of fans think that Eve might have actually become the character that we know as Rue. This character Rue, as I said before, has not appeared in the show yet, but VivziePop said in a tweet that this is a very important character that she can't wait for us to see down the road, likely not appearing until seasons 4 or even 5 at this point. Now, to be honest, we've kind of jumped to a lot of conclusions with Rue as a fan base, which sometimes can make VivziePop upset. Not because she wants us to guess everything right per se, but because some people tend to really hang up their emotions on a theory instead of just seeing it as one fun possibility. But she hasn't said anything to kind of come out against the claims that people are making about Rue, so let's discuss them. You see, Rue is such a weird name, especially for such a crazy dark character like the one we see depicted, that a lot of fans want to assume her name is short for something like the root of all evil. This is because in the show, when evil first enters the world, it's in a similar zigzag pattern that we see Rue having with her general form. And in the pilot especially, there's some interesting designs on buildings that some people think alludes to Rue, the root of all evil. While this may sound like a stretch at first, the name Eve here would be short for evil, so it would make sense that when combined with the root of all evil, that they might go by the name Rue. For me, I think this would be the best twist for a character like Eve, making her essentially the biggest villain in the Has-Been Hotel universe, and all because of what our hero's parents did to her at the beginning of time. But what do you guys think? And do you think it in a kind way, or do you say it with hatred to the person you are talking to? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'm once again asking you to watch our hour-long video on the Fruit of Forbidden Knowledge. For those who liked my Season 1 breakdown of the real-life lore of Has-Been Hotel, this is basically the Season 2 equivalent of that, going deeper down the rabbit hole than ever before. Link as always in the pinned comment down below, and in the pop-up right here. See you guys there.